So close, but yet so far. Dow raging a little more here, up 307 points at 26,985 as we speak. I really want to break that 27,000 level, show a little strength in here, and close above it today and for the rest of the week. I think a close above 27,000. Donald Trump was talking on Sunday when he was beating the crap out of Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday. He was talking about the loss they had at the Supreme Court about overturning some of Barack Obama's executive privilege. Actually gave them a silver lining that they can do. They feel they can do a lot more now by executive privilege. And I think one of the things he's going to do is a payroll tax cut, which I've been suggesting to Stephen Moore and others for a while. But again, I'm not a financial advisor, nor do I play one on TV. Certainly not a tax expert, and I don't play one on TV either. But with the deadline for filing July 15th passing, I figure for all our business owners out there, give you some tips on what you need to know. We bring in Toby Mathis. He joins us today from Vegas. He's an attorney, financial analyst, and business tax expert with Anderson Business Advisors. And Toby, man, we were talking before you came on how, you know, the bureaucracy is just great at one thing, screwing everything up. What do people need to know? July 15th just passed. You got a little deferment from January from April to July. What do people need to know to protect themselves for starters? Like, what's one thing? Hey, make sure you do this.
I would be patient. It's going to sound weird from a tax guy, but the number one thing you should do, hopefully you filed an extension and you didn't try to file your tax return on time. And it's a theory on time. July 15th is the April 15th of this year. So they just said, hey, basically all your taxes are due on July 15th. Your first return due date, which is the suggested due date. The actual deadline is October 15th for an individual return. And realistically, there's too many questions out there, too many head scratchers with regards to the PPP. So if you're a small business owner, hopefully you filed an extension so you're not having to go back and doing an amendment depending on what the powers that be decide on certain activities or certain.
All right, so let me put myself in your position, right? Let me put myself in a business owner's position. I'm a sole proprietor on an LLC, right? I don't take W-2 earnings, right? And I'm basically a single filer, right? So you're saying July 15th was only a recommendation and my actual filing date is October 15th.
Yeah, all taxpayers are entitled to an automatic extension. So we get a 6-month extension. So in your case, where it's an LLC, it's disregarded, so it's a sole proprietorship, you're filing on your Schedule C of your 1040. Your due date for your taxes was actually July 15th, and that's the initial due date of the return. But you have an automatic extension that takes you all the way to October 15th.
Got it.
And yeah.
So I honestly, my accountant who's been doing my stuff for years was literally like phone off the hook busy. You know what I mean? And I was trying to do some reading and stuff. And I said, all right, well, there's got to be some out clause. And then he said, all right. And when he finally got back to me, he says, you're fine, but we'll get to it in a few days. But other people should know they're good till October 15th on an auto extension, right?
Absolutely. Okay. Just give yourself some time. You still owe the tax.
Yeah.
So you should get your estimate, get an idea, but don't put yourself in a situation where you can't make changes if it's in your best interest before October.
Got it. Okay, so let's say my small business got a small PPP loan and kept the requisite amount of people employed during that time. And I'm just giving you a composite. This wasn't me, but I'm saying a business, they got a little PPP, they kept the requisite amount of people. What are their obligations right now from a tax perspective?
So from a tax perspective, there's nothing right now, but it could affect you this year for 2020, which you could carry back into 2019. They changed the laws, so if you have a if you manage to create a loss, you could actually carry it back. So they go hand in hand. So you want to be looking at both returns together, depending on what your scenario is. If you're a restaurant owner and you're really getting hit and you're probably looking at a loss, you need to really be serious about, maybe I file early on my 2020 as soon as I can, and carry back a loss to get some of the money back that I paid in 2019. And I want to know what those numbers are, and basically which bracket I want that money to fall into. Somebody had a great 2019. This is a get out of jail free card, where you can go back in and capture some of that excess, in the higher brackets where the state's hitting you, maybe your city's hitting you, the federal government's hitting you, and here you can go back and get some of that high bracket money. The other side to it was under the PPP, they have a forgiveness, and they extended it to 24 weeks, 8 or 24. 8 was the initial, and then they extended it. But most people, if you maintained your staff, you're not going to have to pay it back. And in the CARES Act, it says that's not going to be considered indebtedness forgiveness for tax purposes, meaning that you don't have to pay tax on the money that you received from the bank, or
right. It's not a gift. It's not. You don't have to pay a gift tax, basically.
You don't have to pay. Ordinarily, if I loan you money and then I say, don't pay me back, that's income to you. I issue you a 1099-C and you recognize that as income. It's like I paid you. Yep. And here they said, oh, don't recognize it. But then the Treasury says, well, you can't deduct anything you spend that money on, which means they just made it taxable again. Right.
It's like a circle. It's like the circle of life, right? I was mentioning to you before, I was listening to some of these calls with, during the PPP, the Small Business Administration, the regional director, the FDIC, the Fed. And there was so much confusion because there were like 4 different agencies that were involved in this thing. And like the banks kept saying, hey, we want a safe harbor. You're telling us to get this money out as quick as possible, but then you're going to come back next year and start telling us we didn't process this right, we didn't process that right. Do taxpayers almost have a little bit of a safe harbor in the next filing period because there's been so much confusion and chaos?
No. When you owe the IRS money, they're an ogre. When they owe you money, they're kind of meek. Right. They disappear. It's bad, John. It's really bad. I think it was in Fresno. They had truckloads of mail over during the quarantine that they just never opened, and that's all the paper returns. That's all the correspondence from taxpayers. And one of the threads that I'm on, some of the CPAs are looking at it, going, "There's literally truckloads of unopened mail." And here these guys come back, and they're not really back yet. The IRS is underfunded and understaffed as it is, and it's a dumpster fire.
Hey,
and it's going to get worse.
We got 2 minutes left here. I want to just get your perspective on active versus passive investing. I have been encouraging my viewers to at least educate themselves on finding, IRA qualified passive investments like alt type things, leases and stuff like that. Where do you see the difference between active versus passive investing?
I went to Catholic school. So active to me is you're goofing off and the nuns go up and smack you. Passive is you're doing something good. You help the old lady across the street and they give you a noogie and they say, good boy. In fact, tax comes from the Latin root of taxare, which means to censure, express severe disapproval. So active income, you get hit on, period. Like you go to McDonald's and you work for I used to work for $4 an hour. You get maybe $3.20 of it. Passive, you're getting a lot more. Sometimes you're getting the full $4.
And then there is, if you're doing it in a qualified or self-directed IRA, there is some tax later. But it's going to be at a significantly lower rate. And then, there are a lot of new things. Even Bitcoin is now allowed for self-directed IRAs. Do you guys give any, weigh in on, that as an alternative investment at all?
No, the Bitcoin to me is a little bit scary just because it doesn't have an underlying asset. I tend to be stuff like I like dividend kings, companies that have been paying out dividends a long time, and I love real estate. Real estate for a tax person, you don't have to pay tax. I could get it to where if you retire and you decide you're going to go into real estate, I could probably get your tax bracket to 0.
Wow. All right. Well, and that's why we got to keep you on the show here, because I'm going to retire soon and get into real estate, and you're going to get my taxes to 0. All right. That's Toby Mathis, attorney, financial analyst, and business tax expert with Anderson Business Advisors. Toby, thanks so much for joining us. You stay
Pleasure.
right there. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with our favorite. What is she now? A Gen Z? Pavlina Osta is going to be with us right after this.